Okay, so with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. Sid, you're going to be first with your opening statement. You have 2 minutes. Push the button.
Okay. Too loud, about right? Good. Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a new system that wasn't working so well in previous meetings. I'm Sid Bassett. I'm the only incumbent running for re-election. Um, I bring years of experience and numerous connections within our community and at the county level. I've lived in Cameron Park for over 25 years, belonged to Cameron Park Rotary, Elks Club, Foothills Methodist Church. I'm on a U.S. Forest Service Advisory Committee. So I am active, and my son graduated from Ponderosa High School, and I was active in band boosters and volleyball and that sort of thing now. I'm a retired school administrator and hold an active real estate license and have real estate investments. My AB is from UC Berkeley in political science. I have 2 masters Sac State in education and psychology, and I've done doctoral work in organizational behavior. My son attends medical school in Reno. I live with my dog, and my interests include traveling, choir, pickleball, swimming, sailing, fishing, and reading. And I have to also thank you for having sponsoring this, the League of Women Voters. I want to acknowledge we have 2 board of directors members here, Directors Ace and Wilson, and I also applaud my fellow candidates for being here tonight and putting their head in the ring. It's a great thing for our community that you're putting that effort forth. And of course, for you folks coming out here tonight, thank you for being here and showing that kind of interest in our local government.
Thank you. Okay, next for opening statement, we have Tracy. You have 2 minutes.
Good evening. Thank you for coming, and thank you, ladies, for having us. My name is Tracy Doyle. I moved to Cameron Park about 12 years ago, and I have a political science degree from LSU. I love government. I love it so much that I studied it. And then I decided about 22 years ago to be a stay-at-home mom and focus on my family, and just had no interest in government as far as political office after working at the Capitol in Louisiana right out of high school. So for many years, I wasn't really engaging in politics, but about 4 years ago, I realized we needed to be engaged in politics because it affects every aspect of our lives. So after focusing on the county for the last 4 years, I heard that the current board was going to potentially close a fire station. And that would impact our insurance rates, our quality of life, our public safety. And I thought now it's time to focus on the micro level, which is our special district. So I decided to throw my hat in the ring after years of also asking other people to put their hat in the ring and run for office and supporting others' campaigns. As a leader in the community, I can't keep asking people to do something that I won't do myself. So here I am. And my campaign and my platform is all about bringing transparency, integrity, and accountability to the Special Services District. And I want to get more public engagement and keep people informed of what's going on. We need to keep both of our fire stations open. We need to make sure we are taking care of our parks. And I just think that it's time for some fresh faces, and I'm really excited that we have 6 people willing to do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Katie Gilchrist. You have 2 minutes to make your opening statement.
Good evening, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting tonight. And for all of you that came out tonight, thank you. It's with your support and presence that meaningful change can happen. So I'm Katie Gilchrist. I'm a resident of Cameron Park for the last 25 years, or a little over 25 years. A bit about my background. I grew up with a strong sense of community, and it's something that shaped my values and the way I live my life every day. My father was an exceptional leader, and my mother volunteered for countless organizations. This instilled in me my professional values and my sense to give back to the community. I graduated from Cal Poly State University San Luis Obispo with a Bachelor of Science degree. While there, I learned my leadership and teamwork skills by running a student-operated business. We printed all of the university's needs, including the daily newspaper. I've been in the private sector for the last 35 years, managing multi-million-dollar budgets and leading teams to success. Now I'm ready to bring my skills and commitment to the CSD board. I'm running because I believe we need proactive governance, listening to your concerns and addressing with transparency and decisive action. My goal is simple. I want to ensure that Cameron Park remains a safe and vibrant community for all of us. I want to maintain the rural character while fostering an environment where everyone, young and old, can succeed. This is my home, a place that I want to help protect, not just the environment, but the people, their homes, their livelihoods. I look forward to your questions this evening.
Thank you. J.R. Hitchborn, you have 2 minutes to make your opening statement.
Thank you very much. Thank you for hosting. Thank you everybody for coming out. A lot of familiar faces in the audience, and I really appreciate that. I've been a Cameron Park resident for 36 years. I've been in Parks and Rec for 25 years. 18 of those years I was with the Cameron Park CSD, so I was involved in a whole lot of things that went around this town. I was involved in the building of this community center, David West Park, Charty Corner, and several other facilities that went up around here. My passion is Parks and Rec. I love it. What got me more involved is the Summer Spectacular. I think it's kind of fell short over the last couple of years. I made a big stink, started coming to some of the meetings, started talking to some of the staff, and then kind of found out some of the problems that they were having. And I think that there's a lot of institutional knowledge that's been lost over the years, and I really bring that back. And I feel like I can help the Cameron Park CSD with the knowledge that I've gained over the years doing the things and involved with the projects and involved with the people and with the parks and everything like that. After Cameron Park, I went to El Dorado Hills CSD for a couple of years and eventually found myself down in Sacramento right now for a Mission Oaks Recreation and Park District. I love it down there. I love my job. And I feel like I could bring some of the things that are successful to those districts here to Cameron Park. There's a lot of stuff that we are doing very different than a lot of the other agencies out there, and I think a lot of those things are causing us to have some financial problems. Some of the ideas I have is we need to start contracting out some of our basic essential duties. I understand right now that we don't have staff working on nights and weekends, and I think that's a problem. There are solutions to all these problems, and I feel like I can bring some of those to the district, and I'm really just happy to be here in front of you guys and just at the table with all these guys right here, and stoked to have 6 people put their hat in the ring, and really excited about things to come and things that can happen.
Thank you. Liz Gates, you have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you. Yes, good evening, and it's really nice to see your faces out there. I think it was 10 years ago, probably was sitting in one of your seats wondering, what's going on around here? And how do I know who is a good candidate? And I think this is a great format to get to know each of us and help you make the best, most informed decision about who you would like to see serve on the CSD board. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this. Thank you to all of us candidates for being willing to do this work. And I believe it is going to be some work. There are a lot of issues that we are facing. I came to this community in around 2000 and officially became a resident in 2001. I raised 3 daughters here. They all attended the local schools, and I ended up helping so much in the classroom as my girls were growing up. I thought I might as well substitute occasionally, and I do that. Have not done it for this past year very often because I've decided instead I'd rather volunteer at the school I have subbed at the most often. As well, I have been engaged in this community because when you're a parent, you can't help it. Your kids want to do some things. So primarily at church, and also my girls were in scouting and a few other things. So I am I have a Bachelor of Science degree from Chico State. I have a business minor. I feel like I'm sitting in the company of some very qualified people. I am going to tell you that the main reason I am running is because I was encouraged to. because I have spoken at meetings, I have met some of the people who have been around here, and they think I could do a good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Barbara Rogers, you have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Hi, thank you, everybody. It's nice to see a lot of people in this room. I have lived in Cameron Park since 1991. I retired from El Dorado County Fire. I started my career in the city of Placerville as the fire chief secretary, as well as working for the police department and the fire department for 7 of my 14 years there. And then we merged into El Dorado County Fire, to which I was at all the meetings for 2 years for that consolidation effort. I also worked for Marshall Hospital for 5 years. I currently, I work at Sam's Club, if any of you shop down there. I have been a fixture here for about 21 years. I began coming to the CSD meetings when they were proposing this building. There was quite a large group of us, and I am probably the lone survivor of that group. Everybody has just, given up, or maybe, sadly, some people, have passed away, but I have been at almost constantly all the meetings, including the board meetings and committee meetings. My main reason for running for the board is the fire service. That is my main purpose. It's always been my purpose. I have been a huge cheerleader for our CAL FIRE partners, and now we are in the midst of a fire annexation. They are speaking to El Dorado Hills, and I want to be part of that process, whether it goes through or not. There's no guarantees, because it's quite a lengthy process and probably about 18 months, but I want to be part of that. And I believe that I have the knowledge and the expertise to lead us. And we also need to take care of our seniors. And we haven't done enough for our senior citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our first question will start with Sid. He picked ones all the way through tonight. So, okay. What do you consider the most important issue this district is currently facing?
It is huge and maybe not obvious to everyone, but the most important issue is our future fire services. And we're currently negotiating for annexation with El Dorado Hills. We've actually been actively communicating with the county fire services as well. What I've learned a lot about fire is, first of all, that the cost has gone up significantly, and we had a really good contract with CAL FIRE, but their costs, labor costs and other costs, went up to where it was beyond what we could afford. They went up $1 million. We're currently running a deficit of about $500,000 with current fire services, and we cannot sustain that. We will be bankrupt in about 5 years with the amount of reserves we have. So it's how do we maintain the level of fire services that we've enjoyed for many, many years, and yet also continue the many fine programs in this community and our parks. So that'll be the balancing act between the budget, the deficit related to fire services, and maintaining the quality and level of fire services that we've enjoyed for some time.
Thank you. Tracy.
So obviously the fire station is one of the most pressing issues, right? But it all goes back to fiscal mismanagement, and we have increased expenditures without increased revenue. And so the budget and the sustainability of the financial future is the most pressing issue at this time, in my opinion.
Thank you. Don't forget to turn off your mic. And there's a phone going. Okay, great. Liz.
Okay, I would agree that our primary problem, our largest concern, is our fire, but it's an extension. The reason we're struggling with that is because of our budget issues. And I have become a little more familiar with how we got here. It is fairly complicated. I have much more to learn, but essentially our tax revenues don't pace with the rising costs for the services we've always had. They cost more, but we don't get more money to the same level. So I've come to appreciate that particular issue. The budget basically eclipses everything because that's what we pay our fire service with. So I would say that might be the most critical thing. Let's see. I guess that might be my response. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie?
We could talk at the same time. I echo what everyone's saying. I have a feeling that's what's going to happen as we go down the table. But our financial situation right now is key. Depending upon where you are in Cameron Park, you are in one of the highest wildfire hazard zones. And so in order to balance the budget or get our costs down, closing a fire station should be the last thing that we look at. So it is fire, but it is a result of the budget. So we need to do a real forensic analysis of the budget, looking at items that may not stand on their own, looking at new revenue sources, such as new developments that will make sure that they pay an impact fee for the services that they will use, looking at expenses such as rising water costs. EID raised the recreational turf rates almost 300%. That's going to have another, if it hasn't already had an impact on the budget, it will have a large impact. And I believe we can put a coalition together to work with Buckeye School District, Rescue School District, and El Dorado Union High School District, who are in the EID's top 10 users, to work on reducing those rates back to where they belong.
Thank you. JR?
Yeah, kind of just echoing what everybody else said. I think the fire services and the annexation is our top priority right now. Parks and Rec and Fire have always had to communicate for funds, and Fire is going to win 10 times out of 10. And so slowly but surely, we've kind of lost all the things that made us special. We lost our lagoon, our pool slide, our fireworks show isn't what it used to be. And so all the things that bring an identity to our community have kind of slipped away over the years. And that makes me really sad. So we won't know what our means are until after we finish the annexation process with the fire. And again, that is our top priority. So once we get past that, then we're going to have to start on how do we keep a community and give it an identity and make it feel like it is a special place to live. We got a big old sign as soon as you drive into Cameron Park that tells everybody it's a special place to live, but we're not doing anything to back that up. And so we need to start getting back to what made us a community in the first place. The way that we do that is we have to figure out a way to identify funds to reinvest into our community, specifically our special capital improvement projects. It feels like every time something breaks around here recently, we just get rid of it. And so we're going to keep getting rid of things because we have no money. And so we have to identify a way to bring more money into this community, identify those funds, and we need to set up what's called a community oversight committee so that those funds can be looked at on an annual basis. People involved community members can get together and see where future money should be spent and see where previous money should be spent. And that's kind of how you bring accountability to the budget, to the spending process. I don't have all the answers, but I know there are ways to do it because I've seen other districts do it, and we do it where I'm at right now. So again, fire's top priority, and then building this community back and bringing back some of the stuff that made us special in the first place. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Barbara?
Well, it seems like we are all in agreement that our fire service should be our top priority. You know, we're only 6.5 square miles. We're built out, basically. We're not going to get any huge development. We're not going to get any huge increase in property taxes. And that's basically the problem. And what I've seen over the years is, in my opinion, mismanagement of the budget. They don't have reserves. In fact, they've really never had reserves. And you have to put away for that rainy day. I hear a lot about fire takes the lion's share of the budget, and that may be true, but I can also tell you that our CAL FIRE partners year after year came in under budget, and that money was taken to offset the deficit on the district side. My issue is this building, I have said it for years, is the elephant in the room. I was part of a large group. We were totally against the community center. They were told in 2003, 2004 by a consultant that this building would lose $400,000 a year. They built this building with no metal roofs, We had no money for maintenance. This building is also very underutilized. We should be having wedding receptions, events. We should be having things to bring our people into the center to utilize it. I think one of the problems is they expect our community, we paying for the building, but they also want us to support the building by renting it, whatever. That's not going to work in today's world. So we have some major budget problems, which I would like to see whoever gets elected on this board, once and for all, to quit kicking the can down the road and do the right thing and quit deficit spending.
Thank you. The next question, the first answer will be from Tracy Doyle. The CAL FIRE contract provides many unwritten advantages. It includes, but is not limited to, priority fire crew work with the Parks and Rec Department on many things, including maintenance projects and fire reduction. Do you think that the CSD would continue to get this priority if they ended the fire department contract? Would this be a consideration for you in comparisons of proposed contracts or annexations?
I think that whatever contract or annexation we go with, it needs to give us at least the service level that we have now. We talk about CAL FIRE having $1 million, being $1 million more, right? And we don't have that money, but to annex with EDH there's a $1.5 million deficit. So the current board paid about $68,000 for reports with AP Triton. One of those was a $4,000 fire plan that was canceled, and the other, I believe it was $62,000 that they spent for a annexation analysis. Right now, there's a draft report of that, but it wasn't finalized, and they won't release it to the public. So until I can see that, or look at what exactly an annexation would look like, what a contract with CAL FIRE, what a contract with the county would look like, I can't compare anything. So I don't know what the cost would be. I don't know what services would be included, because it all seems to be going on behind closed doors. We don't even know what the process is, which everyone said they would let the public know what the process is for the annexation, but raise your hand in this room if you know what the process is. Other than Mr. Easton, I don't think anyone else in here, and Mr. Gardner, sorry, Alan, I don't think anyone else knows what that process even looks like. So that's where I come from when I talk about transparency. I can't even answer that, really, because I don't know what these options even look like at this point.
Thank you. Liz?
So the question was, we get the extra bonus service from CAL FIRE for clearing. For instance, I've seen their presence in our parks at Gateway and so forth, and I know they provide a very valuable service. I don't know the actual value of it. It is a little hard to discover. I have searched the budget. I know that we need those things performed, and I believe we should consider it one way or the other that we will have it. So yes, it would impact my decision if I was casting judgment on this, because it has value. But I need more information too. I think that the annexation is particularly an interesting way to go when it comes to dealing with our fire and budget, because we have one budget, and from it flows our fire and our parks and rec and a couple of other things. So it's a large responsibility, and I think we need to leave the responsibilities to the experts. So for fire, I'd rather see that was an annexation or whatever provides us a separate entity where we as Cameron Park residents have board representation on these very important concerns. And then separately, I'd want to see someone who is the expert at our parks and rec. And I think we have a few people here that I'm excited about in that regard. So I believe our keeping our parks clean and our fire, CAL FIRE work that we've had done in the past, I want to see that continue. I don't know if it's going to have to be through our fire service, though. I want it the best economical way.
Thank you. Katie?
So it was a very long question. I believe we're looking for, will the other areas prioritize maintenance and service?
Sure. Let me maybe read the last part again.
Thank you.
Do you think that the CSD would continue to get this priority if they ended the fire department contract with CAL FIRE? Would this be a consideration for you in comparisons of proposed contracts or annexations?
Okay. So I believe in competitive bidding and request for proposal process. What should have happened before any negotiations with any one department is that all of the agencies involved should have been asked the exact same questions so that a comparison of apples and apples can be done. I would hope that the negotiations that are going on today with El Dorado Hills, I would hope that these priority or these maintenance programs and other projects that CAL FIRE is helping, I would hope that that is included in as a requirement for El Dorado Hills Fire. But what should have happened is we should have had a competitive bidding process.
Thank you. JR?
So over the last 25 years, I've had the privilege of working for 3 different fire departments, or working with 3 different fire departments, CAL FIRE, El Dorado Hills Fire, and Sac Metro Fire. CAL FIRE is the juggernaut in the room, and I think they provide the best services. There's certain things that we get with them we're not going to get with anybody else. Growlersburg is phenomenal for our weed abatement, our vegetation management, and you're just not going to find that many people show up and do that much labor for pennies on the dollar. It's amazing what those guys can do. A crew of, I forget the number, it's 18, 20 guys will show up, and no problem is too big and no problem is too small. I've seen them cut a tree up that's fallen over a road, and I've seen them, weed an entire field in a day because they needed to. Oftentimes with big organizations like CAL FIRE, you lose that personal touch, but I would think CAL FIRE does a phenomenal job of building partnerships with the district, and I think that they have built that partnership with the district. So we don't just contract out our fire services. We have partners with all the chiefs and the captains, and people really know people and they care about people, and CAL FIRE has stepped up time and time again every time we've asked them to, and that's phenomenal. El Dorado Hills, they're a phenomenal fire department as well. They don't have as many abilities to do the things that CAL FIRE can do. CAL FIRE is huge. The problem is we cannot annex into CAL FIRE. They're not a fire district themselves. They just contract out the services. So that leaves our options limited. And that's tough. So I think we will lose some services with the quality of services. I know in El Dorado Hills with the CSD there, we had to do all of our weed abatement in-house and use our landscape companies to do it, and it put a burden on the district. So I think we're in a tough spot, and we're going to have to live within our means, and I think annexation is going to be one of those tough decisions that just have to be made.
Thank you. Barbara?
If we lose CAL FIRE, I'm going to be positive, you will not see the Growlersburg crew any longer in Cameron Park. We get them 50 days out of the year at $10,000 a year in kind, which means what we do is we purchase equipment, gloves, turnouts, or Nomex, whatever for them. We will no longer rent our second and third out engines to CAL FIRE during big fires. In the Ranger unit, where we make rental equipment, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. That's supposed to pay for our new equipment. And in fact, if you didn't have this program, folks, for the past 27 plus years, you wouldn't have the beautiful rolling stock you have right now. Cameron Park Fire would probably be driving around in 30-year-old engines. So I do not see where you're going to get great fire protection if it's El Dorado Hills, and if it was county fire, the same. But we are not going to get the same extra services that we now enjoy. And that's been kind of a bone of contention with some people, where it should be apples to apples. You should compare the extras that we get from CAL FIRE. The floods 2 years ago, they brought in 71 people. Didn't cost this district a dime. So they have a lot of resources, and they partner well with the other fire districts in the county. So whichever way this goes, the only way that we're going to be able to keep CAL FIRE is if we pay more taxes. And I dare say there's no guarantee about an annexation cost either, because the numbers are fluid. People are getting raises. Their benefits are changing. So it doesn't mean that one department's going to be cheaper than the other. So thank you.
Thank you. Sid? Mike?
Well, most everybody's referenced the Garlisburg crew, and they're part of the fire academy that is connected to CAL FIRE. So that will end. But there's cost benefits to almost everything. CAL FIRE is the wildfire fighting organization statewide, but it also means we would be paying into the retirement system for a fire captain in San Diego County that might be considerably higher than El Dorado County or San Jose or something like that. So that cost of CAL FIRE went up so significantly, it was not sustainable. Great organization, great service. And we are a suburban community. We're not the wildfire community. And so the needs are somewhat different. It's probably going to be a leaner, smaller organization. So we lose Garlisburg. Well, what are the other possibilities? Well, one is there is actually a fire academy down in El Dorado Hills, and it's connected to the college and to the fire station down there. Those cadets could be possible workers. There's also a high school program that's been long suspended, where high school students get involved in fire services, and they might possibly be an asset for us. Cameron Park owns our own equipment and our own station, so we're in a good place when we're looking at some sort of annexation. The last thing I would say is when we were talking about how they came to our service with the floodeds and everything, we have a great reciprocal agreements with our neighboring fire stations. It's very much a team organization. El Dorado Hills County Rescue all work together directly with Cameron Park. So we're blessed to have neighboring fire services that will support us in the future.
Thank you. Liz will be answering this question first. What are your plans to have more effective communication to residents of this district about upcoming events and issues aside from social media?
Okay, good question. This is fun getting right on the fly. Well, if you can't include anything on our phones or what arrives in our emails, is what you're saying? No social media?
Other than social media, not no social media.
Oh, okay. So other. Well, I do feel that as I look around at my parks as a member here of this community, that we don't keep up our kiosks. I'm seeing a zip-tied notice of last year's Easter Bunny hunt still posted. So I think we can do a lot with having regular postings go up at our kiosks that already exist. I am thinking that we could do well to, put out a few banners at key intersections when we have special events. I have seen that done, but I think maybe we could add one or two more. There are some other key intersections that are not, where there is no information. So I would say those mainly. I think maybe at any events that we're having, we would make sure it's an opportunity. We might already have the attention of some public to mention what's coming next. And it can be done in person at these events. It might be done with flyers and such. I think I would avoid adding to a great deal of cost and adding mail to people's boxes and so forth. But I think we could do for low cost much more than we do now, at least at those kiosks. I'd love to see that. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie?
I agree with Liz on the kiosks. There is a lot of outdated information out on them. I think it's not only for events, but also just for community engagement. I think the community needs to know what the board is doing, what the CSD is doing, and decisions that impact you. That can be done with, social media, but with more email, partnering with community and other community organizations to say, hey, we're doing this, or provide other information. I believe that all board meetings, all meetings, all committee meetings should have an online option for residents to be able to dial in and watch. I believe every meeting should have written minutes with action items. Those things don't happen today. The community needs to know what is going on here, and those are a couple of ways we can do that. Thank you.
Thank you. JR.
Well, I would like to start by saying that the CSD has a phenomenal recreation team right now. I mean, phenomenal. The only knock on them is they haven't been there this long, and that's not their fault. So I think month after month after month, they've continued to increase the programmings that they do here. And I think that they're just going to continue to increase those programs. They've got a real positive can-do attitude, which I think is critical for the success of anything. So as far as advertising things, I think the more successful the event is, the more it'll advertise itself. We used to put out a activity guide every season, so four a year, every quarter one would get out. And I know we've gotten away from that, and it's strictly online now, but we can go back to two, get like mailed out in the mail and two online. That's what a lot of districts have gone to try to save money from all the costs of mailing all that stuff out. But there is still value to things showing up in your mail and people being able to hold things in their hands. I give my parents a bad time all the time because they read the newspaper, but they're people just like my folks out there that like to hold something, read it, see it, and experience it. And it's something that we've lost, and not just us. A lot of communities have lost that, and we need to bring that back. Not all the way. We were spending a lot of money, and the events that we do have, part of the expense of that event needs to be sending out those activity guides. You know what I mean? That's just an expense of doing business, and we incur those costs based on the money that we bring back in. So before we get to a net profit, we have to make sure that we have enough money where we've paid our expenses. One of those expenses need to be those activity guides that go out twice a year, so that people can still hold and feel and see something in their hand, because we've lost a big portion of the Cameron Park community that still absorbs information that way by actually touching, feeling, and looking at something other than social media and Facebook and things like that. So I think that's, and then the billboards and the kiosks, and I'm for all that too, the banners. I don't think you should over-banner things, but we definitely utilize all those as well.
Thank you. Barbara.
Well, we do put signs up at David West Park, and we also put it at Paul Ryan Park, but I do agree they need to do better. And how do you get the public, though, to get involved? I think that's the main problem in our communities. The public is not engaged. And I think people are very busy, they're working, they have younger children perhaps. But we do have, as he said, the activity guide. It just came out. They're not mailing it anymore because it costs. Then you can get on the email list also, and then there's the website. You can go on there. But, they could do it. We used to put signs at the corner of Country Club and Cambridge, but the people that own that property take those signs down. So where are you going to put signs that aren't going to bother people? That's the problem. I mean, you can't even put a campaign sign up in this town without people moving them. So, they need to do a better job, but the public also has to do a better job of wanting to be involved, I believe, and to find out what is going on here. So that's it.
Thank you. Sid.
Sorry, a lot of good ideas out here. I really have to compliment our website and the rec department getting those activities out there and people actually enjoying and participating in those activities. But I must say that it does attract a lot of following. We had a Halloween event here about a year ago, and it was kind of short notice. Only went by social media. We had over 400 kids here in this facility about a year ago. So those things do work. But something I've said for some time when I was on the fire committee is I spent, like this summer, I was driving through the coastal areas in the hot spill, and I think I went through Ukiah, and a fire station had an electronic bulletin board like we see at all schools. And one of the things was a reminder is don't mow your lawn except early in the morning or use a weed eater, because the chance of hitting a rock and starting a fire is pretty high. I think electronic bulletin boards are probably a way to go. Wherever they be located, they probably here outside the CSD, the fire station, and Paul Ryan Park. And I know they're not cheap, and I know we considered it, but I think that's the way that everybody driving by is aware of all the events, but also those safety reminders like don't mow your lawn in the afternoon because you could start a fire. But and mailing, unfortunately, it becomes prohibitively expensive. But I think we need to go in every way we can to reach our public and inform them what's going on.
Thank you. Tracy?
So one of the things we need to get taken care of is the lack of minutes. It's actually in our charter. There have been no minutes posted on the website this entire year of '24. They do have audio recordings, but there's no minutes. I've never heard of a government meeting or an organization not taking minutes, not approving minutes, and not posting minutes. So there's one way people can be more engaged with their government, who choose to be, is by getting the minutes back up. I think email is a great way to connect with people. I would like to do as a director a monthly or quarterly email to connect with constituents. It's a little different than supervisors because you have districts. You can send, all the voters in District 2. So we're at large, but I think that email is a good communication tool, and the minutes, and what else? I think Katie mentioned the meetings being accessible. They do have a program, I can't remember which one they use, but it's not very user-friendly, so I'd like to see the district go to Zoom. That is a much more user-friendly experience for the meetings. And I had one more idea. Oh, connecting with the chamber and getting the chamber to help us promote events as well. I believe, can't recall if the district is a member of the Shingle Cameron Park Chamber, but there is, the option of partnering with that group to help get events. We don't really have special events right now, and that's another source of revenue that needs to be explored. Put on some income-producing activities, and then we need a plan for marketing. Marketing needs to be part of the budget, and that may include figuring out how to start mailing out the activity guide again.
Thank you. Katie, you'll answer this question first. The current board voted to only pursue annexation with El Dorado Hills, even though current estimates stated it would cost $1 million more than El Dorado County Fire. Would you vote to revisit this decision to look at all alternatives to find a solution to the Cameron Park Fire situation?
Well, the first thing that has to happen is that the AP Triton report needs to be revealed. It has been hidden by the current board for reasons unknown. But in public sessions of 2 fire agencies, we've been made aware that the fire chiefs of El Dorado Hills and El Dorado County have a copy. So the report exists, and yet the current board is ignoring public requests to see that report. So the first thing that has to happen is that report needs to be revealed and reviewed and look at the recommendations of it. A secondary report was done by the board commissioned a secondary report, and that report has information that only AP Triton was made aware of. So again, another example that the report exists. So yes, if once that report is out and we have all the facts on the table, yes, I would vote to revisit the decision.
Thank you. JR.
I don't think we have enough factual information to truly answer that question. I know that Cameron Park owns its own fire stations on the properties that they sit on and owns their engines. So I think that we are in a very, very good negotiating situation. I haven't been a part of those closed-door meetings, so I don't know what the exact numbers are, how much we'd lose, what kind of a deal we'd get on. So without that information, I think it's hard to say yes or no on anything like that. And so when I get more information, I'll be able to answer that better.
Thank you. Barbara.
Can you repeat the question to me and speak up a little bit?
I can. The current board voted to only pursue annexation with El Dorado Hills, even though current estimates stated it would cost $1 million more than El Dorado County Fire. Would you vote to revisit this decision to look at all alternatives to find a solution to the Cameron Park Fire situation?
Well, if I had my way, we wouldn't be in this situation at all. We'd be sticking with CAL FIRE. But I'm not going to get my way, I'm quite sure. As far as what happened with AP Triton, I have to agree with Katie. There's been numerous people asking for that report, myself included. The fire chiefs collectively. And when I say the fire chiefs, I mean the CAL FIRE chief, the county fire chief, and the El Dorado Hills fire chief all came together and collectively. The taxpayers asked for it. Joe Harn asked for it. They're not going to release it to us. I have even gone as far as to call AP Triton to find out about the non-disclosure that I could not find anywhere in the RFP process or the ordinance, because that's the excuse that's being told to us. There was a non-disclosure. So with that said, I don't think County Fire was ignored. In fact, I mean, they weren't ignored. Don Ashton, who's the retired CAO for the county, came in and did a report. He purely looked at future sustainability, and that's why they went towards El Dorado Hills. And why? Well, look at their growth. They are the richest department in the county. They've always been the richest department in the county. So I would have liked them to look at all three agencies, CAL FIRE, County Fire, and El Dorado Hills Fire. Why it went in the direction it went in, I wish I had the answer. I mean, I have a lot of answers, but I'm still digging to get the answer. And I will tell you, I will find out one way or another what went on with the AP Triton.
Thank you. Sid. Mike.
I actually felt that we should consider both agencies, and I was the single vote to pursue both County Fire and El Dorado Hills, and I had no preference one way or the other. The advantage of El Dorado Hills is they have a higher tax rate. They have great millions in reserves. They're in a better position to probably help our community, and that was the consensus of the board and the recommendation of Don Ashton, the person we hired to help us figure this out. But the advantage of the county is it's a lower labor rate, perhaps lower retirement benefits. So to me it was, and their cost was, I think, about $200,000 versus over $1 million to join El Dorado Hills. But those negotiations are continuing now, and we're acting in good faith, and we're hoping that we can find a solution where we can live within our budget. And as has been mentioned, we have considerable assets. We own the rolling equipment, we own the buildings, we own the space. And we actually, you may not know it, we have the shortest response time of any fire area in the whole county. We're just a little over 5 minutes. So we're actually in a really good position here, because we're relatively compact as a community. We're also surrounded by El Dorado Hills and Bass Lake, and we have the county fire up there on North Springles. So we're surrounded by a lot of good fire services. We're very fortunate, but the decision of the majority of the board and the recommendation of our consultant was to go with the El Dorado Hills at this time.
Thank you. Tracy.
I would absolutely be willing to revisit this because I don't think we have enough facts for any of us up here to make a choice in terms of which department. What does annexation look like? Does that mean we lose power over our fire stations? It would definitely not be, it wouldn't look the way it does now. It's right now we own the buildings and the equipment, and we have a contract for staffing. So when you annex, we're going to become a part of El Dorado Hills Fire. I think there's rumblings and there's talk, we all know, of El Dorado Hills becoming a city one day. Do you want them to annex us as part of their city one day? Do you want to be part of El Dorado Hills? Or do you want to hang on to our unique identity as Cameron Park? So I think that's something to consider. In terms of the NDA, I am absolutely 100% against any government agency signing a non-disclosure agreement. When you're an elected official, you are doing the people's business. And the people's business doesn't need to go on behind closed doors with secrets kept from us and reports hidden from us. It is absolutely unacceptable that the county signed an NDA, and Don Ashton was involved with that, by the way. The CAO, during Caldor fire, the Board of Supervisors had a special meeting, and a lot of us who normally would be paying attention to those meetings were helping fire victims. In that meeting, they voted to do an NDA to keep quiet about the negotiations between Dermody, which was the company that would be building for Amazon. So here we are now with a district who did an NDA and is hiding information from us. That is that's not transparency. And if we want to build trust with the citizens again, between the government and the citizens, it starts when stuff like this stops.
Thank you. Liz?
I would possibly revisit it, but I've been very curious. I was interviewed by AP Triton, and I haven't heard very much other than what Don Ashton provided, and I've taken great interest in that, as well as the grand jury investigation that was done and the responses given by El Dorado County Fire, as well as El Dorado Hills Fire. There were some really interesting points brought to my attention that I think we should all be aware of. The problem is long-term sustainability, and it has a lot to do with unfunded pensions. And we would not, if we stayed in a contract arrangement with CAL FIRE, have any control over the pay. That's negotiated. CAL FIRE negotiates their labor contracts, so it is whatever they have. If we were annexed, I think we would, because we would have representation. I know that we would enter into such an arrangement because we would have the ability to have some say. There would be a member of a board that is in that capacity that represents us. So I know, though, that that long-term sustainability issue, as well as attracting, and then retaining the people that are hired. El Dorado Hills, Don Ashton's report states, this is all I have to go on, didn't see an AP Triton, and I'd like to see that as well, states that the employees in El Dorado Hills are higher compensated and they stick around. In the end, the cost is lower. Thank you. I see stop.
Thank you. The next question will start with JR. If the budget is not balanced, what service areas do you propose cutting?
Ouch. I think instead of cutting, we need to generate. We need to figure out ways to generate money to offset the negative unbalanced budget, and that's not really answering your question. So if we have to cut things, we have to start contracting out our services. Is what we have to do. You can get a lot more for a lot less if you have contracted services, and I would start with your landscape services and with your custodial services. Right now, we've cut locking up the parks at night, and we've said if you want your parks locked, you got to lock them up. And so community members have stepped up and now are locking their own parks. I think if we were to contract that service out to a custodial company, you would have clean restrooms in the morning when the parks opened up, and you would have the parks locked up every night by that company. I think that the park maintenance staff has turned into a landscape company, and I think the priority is on the landscape services of the mowing of the lawns and the pruning of the shrubs, and I think that's very important. But they don't have the attention to go do maintenance type stuff because they're always stuck doing the landscape. If you were to contract those services out, you would have one set cost. The landscape company would be there 5 days a week. They don't call in sick, they don't take vacations, and their contract is typically from 3 to 5 years out. So you know exactly what your costs are for the next 3 to 5 years. Whereas, with in-house employees, costs can go up as wages are negotiated, as things happen. We need to start looking at other avenues to save costs on expenses. And generating revenue is a key part of how we retain staff and how we continue to operate at a successful level.
Thank you. Barbara?
I agree with JR. Oh, I'm sorry. I agree with JR. I think it's time that we look at the possibility of contracting our janitorial out. Perhaps even contracting out with a pool company to take care of our pool. It's all computerized with the chemicals. But my thing is, and I've said it for years, it's this building, and I don't care what the district says because it is this building. This building is draining our budget. It used to be a 70-30 split with the budget, 70% to the fire, 30% to the other part of the budget. Over the years, they've skimmed it and skimmed it and skimmed it. Now, I'm not saying that that difference would save the rising cost of our fire service, but what I am saying is you can't control salaries and benefits at El Dorado Hills or El Dorado County. Those are fluid numbers. You can control your salaries and benefits here through your negotiation process. I believe they have to strongly look at this building, and maybe we're going to have to limit hours to save money. The pool is a year-round training ground for 2 swim teams. That is not what was proposed when they brought the bond forward. The Sharks have been here since day one, but now they have Aquasol there. So thereby, the swim teams are in here all the time, cutting our time out as the public to use the pool. So they have to make some strong decisions and learn how to live within their means. And if you have to cut, you have to cut. That's the way I feel about it.
Thank you. Sid? Mike?
I think we're on the right track of looking at trying to contract out some services. At one time, prior history, all the finance of Cannon Park was handled by the county, and that would be something we should be exploring. We could simply move all that up there. I think custodial care is possibly something that makes sense, and the pool that makes sense that we could contract out. I'm less confident about the parks. An idea that we've explored and it never was followed through on was we have teachers doing all kinds of programs or programs, basketball in the gym or volleyball or whatever. We could install accommodation locks. That organization puts up a deposit, and we don't need a custodial person to stay around and close up. That volunteer group would basically be responsible for shutting down, locking up. So we have to think creatively. We have had money-making opportunities that we've lost, and I'm disappointed as a board member. And I've shared some of those at board meetings. And I think we need to be looking continually at what are new opportunities. Our Rotary Club is no longer using this facility because the cost is too high. And those are unfortunately may not be competitive. And for the weddings and all those kind of venues, are we actually competitive in using those facilities to the maximum? So I think we need to look at our opportunities. The last thing I would say is our employees may have really many fine ideas, and many corporations give some sort of a monetary or vacation time or prize for coming up with money-making ideas. So I think there's probably within our organization lots of new ideas that we're not reaching, and we should be looking for every possibility.
Thank you. Tracy?
So I think for up until about 10 years ago, my family and I were a single income family. My husband has a great job and is taking good care of us. But during that time, on a single income, you have to look at what are your needs and what are your wants. And sometimes you don't get to do certain things, or you have to make those cuts. And I think that what I've watched over the last 4 years in all levels of government is people treating our public funds like it's monopoly money. You know, you don't operate and approve a $500,000 deficit. That's not how the real world works. So about 10 years ago, I started my own business, and over the last 10 years, we've done in my organization $4 million worth of revenue. So one thing I've learned is to have an abundance mindset. So sometimes you want to do something, but you got to figure out how. And instead of always saying, no, we can't do that, my mindset is, let's figure out how we can do that. So we have to make these choices at times, but we can also have an abundance mindset of how can we increase revenue? What can we do to bring more money in, right? So events and things like that. I've figured out lately from looking over the budget, we're members of the California Special Districts Association. The membership dues for that's based on your budget. So it's thousands of dollars a year that we pay for that. And from what it looks like, they do HR workshops, trainings, different things like that. I'm not sure that that's very wise spending of our dollars when we're thinking of closing fire departments. So yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff that could be slashed. I think when we were having all these problems, we should have been cutting things, not creating jobs.
Thank you. Liz?
That's a terrible question to have to ask ourselves. Where would we do without? If I was to just very directly answer that, I think I do look at this building and wonder if there's some way it could be, I think it would be counterproductive to reduce the hours that was available because we still have fixed costs, and that I don't think we'll wind up net better. So for cuts, yeah, fire can't be cut. That stands, of course. The parks, probably I would start with this building. It is the largest and most expensive thing that we have in this district. And I wonder about creative ways to utilize this building. And instead of asking how can we cut, can we get more people utilizing this space and bring revenue in with that? So I'm wondering about even talking to county and other organizations, boys and girls clubs, and see much more engagement with other community organizations. Maybe there are a lot of people who don't think about having their weddings here. Perhaps I think we can't do that so much because when I look at this space, my own daughter is about to get married, and I didn't suggest this space necessarily because I feel like unfortunately it wasn't landscaped to lend itself to a nice place for such an event. Everybody has their own opinion. I wouldn't want to do that at the park because of the goose poop. Everyone has that, their own opinion about. But I think cuts would be tricky, but I'd look here first at this particular facility, and I'm not quite sure how, but that's what you'd have to do. If you don't have the money, you can't have it.
Thank you. Katie?
I think the first thing that we need to do is a real thorough analysis. We need to understand what programs are costing the district. I don't think that the current board knows that. Just last night at the finance meeting, the committee was given 6 months of financial data. The board should have access to financial data monthly. They should be doing monthly reviews of the budget versus actual and know what their variance is every month. They need to be able to make strong decisions based on up-to-date data. Waiting for 6 months to go by before the information is provided to them to make these decisions is unacceptable. So I think the first thing is that every program needs to be looked at. And if it can't stand on its own revenue versus expense, then we need to decide, is it something that should be cut? Or is it something that we can maybe reduce the revenue or increase the revenue so that it will cover? But every program needs to stand on its own. I also believe that we need to look at our processes. We need to reduce inefficiencies. There may be different ways that we can do things that will be more effective and more efficient and get rid of waste. So, thank you.
Thank you. This question starts with Barbara. Finally, she gets to start with a question. Please tell us what your top 3 goals are that you plan to accomplish if you are elected.
Well, number one, I want to be part of the annexation process. I want to be able to know what's going on and to make a decision whether it goes through or not. And believe me, nothing's saying that it's going to go through. It's all going to come down to money. Number two, I would like to see more done for our seniors. When they built this building, this was to be a senior center. They don't do hardly anything for the seniors in this community. I'd like to see more done. And of course, I guess probably I should have put the budget first. We need to get on top of this budget. I agree with what Katie says, to analyze what is going on here and to be able to live within our means. If we all lived the way this district's been living, we'd be living out in tents on the street because there's just been no accountability for years. This isn't something that just happened. I've been coming here for almost 21 years, and I've watched it for years. And it's time that somebody takes the reins and goes, hey, what's going on here? The board is the boss. They have one employee, the general manager. Their job is to direct that general manager. Their job is to be engaged and to know what's going on. But above all, the public is over everybody. And that's where we have a voice. So I'd love to see more people come to meetings and be engaged. Thank you.
Thank you, Sid.
I have to agree that the annexation, the only qualifier I would put is getting the best possible service we can for within our budget. I also agree with Barbara. The census shows 25% of our population of 20,000 are seniors over 65, and while we have many fine programs, I don't think we do nearly enough. So that's an underserved population. And then finally, I would like to support recreational programs that make for building our community, providing fitness, good social and emotional connections, and a sense of pride in our community. So any and all programs that can enhance our community in those ways would be valued, in my opinion.
Thank you. Tracy.
My top three goals would be, number one is the finances. We need to do a complete forensic audit of the finances and the productivity of the district. We need to see what the true financial picture is. Number two, transparency. Obviously, I'm a big proponent of getting the minutes taken care of, that issue resolved. Responding to public records requests properly. If we don't get that AP Triton report, some of us may have to go to the courthouse to get that released, and just, that is definitely a possibility. So keep that in mind as you guys keep hiding it. Number three, we need to focus on increasing revenue, and we can do that by creating programs and events that are income producing and attractive to our community. We do have a large population of older people. We're also a community that's made up of the sandwich generation. So my mom passed away of early onset dementia, and my family took care of her in our home during hospice in the last 3 years. And we are a sandwich generation. And one of the things that concerns me is this pay gate being put up at the lake. Years ago, when we were on a single income and taking care of my mom, I like to take my mom and my kids to the park. It would be cost prohibitive if we have to pay to go sit and do that. I think that we need to focus on building community and including all the different age levels, and doing so, creating these events that are income producing activities.
Thank you. Liz.
3 goals. Well, I'm not comfortable with living beyond my own means. I don't like being in a deficit situation. So I would look for ways to get our budget balanced. And I think that one of the main things that should begin now, because the process takes time, is to get our community engaged and informed of our situation. You heard our current board member incumbent speak to that we have about 5 years of solvency if we do nothing. So we need to bring in revenue. So I would love to see revenue generated, and I wonder about an interesting idea of we have a very large community made up primarily of the retirees, but I see it crosses all generations of people that enjoy playing pickleball. And I see potential. There has been a site identified at McAuliffe. I would love to see that park include the development and installation of at least 6, hopefully 8 pickleball courts that could have lights, would not be up against private residences. I would love to make sure that our annexation, so I guess that would be my third, but I wish I could have a few others. I'd love to be around while that occurs. I mainly think that it just matters when you need an emergency service, it's reliable and it's provided to us in the most economical way. So I'm looking at it strictly from that. I would like to shop value. So my 3 goals, that would be revenue and budget, pickleball, and getting that annexation, or figuring out a way to get our fire services paid for. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie?
Top priority, public safety. So making sure that we keep our fire stations open, return our ambulance services, and make sure that our businesses and residents are prepared for any emergencies. God forbid that fire comes through this place. We need to be prepared. Fiscal responsibility and accountability, being transparent with the state of affairs here. And public records requests, I'm going to say that as a third one because if I'm elected, I will make it a requirement that the public records requests are acknowledged and responded to within the legal time frame. And we'll need to hold the management and the board members accountable to a process and monitor that process. We need to create a culture where transparency is the standard and not the exception. Thank you.
Thank you. JR?
3 goals. Goal number 1, I think, seeing this fire annexation through and seeing what Cameron Park CSD looks like when it's built up of parks, recreation, and your CCNRs. We're not going to know how to live within our means until we know what our means are, and so very interested to see what it looks like once the dust settles. Number 2, I want to see our parks look like our parks looked when I remember them. You know, I hate taking my kid to soccer tournaments, and every time I tell someone that I live in Cameron Park, they tell me that my town is trashy. It just bothers me to my core. And I want to argue with them, but I can't sometimes. We keep losing everything that's made us special and made us good and made us classy, you know. We're not El Dorado Hills' stepsister. We're Cameron Park, and we have some great things here, and I hate to see them keep disappearing. So we need to figure out a way to possibly get monies identified specifically for your park and recreation services. I know that we talk about having more revenue and more services and things like that, but as a CSD, we still have a responsibility to provide those services to people who can't afford them at the time. I'll echo the gate at the lake. I hate to see a kid not be able to play at his neighborhood playground because he lives in some low-income apartments and can't afford to get into Cameron Park Lake to go to the playground. I hate that I was able to play at Cameron Park Lake at the lagoon, and that my kid could play at the lagoon, but my nieces and nephews, they can't go there anymore. It's something that they don't know. There's nothing they identify with their town. If they want to play basketball, they got to go to Placerville to play in a basketball league. That would be goal number 2. A way that we get the parks looking the way that they're supposed to again, I think contracting out these services is a third goal of mine. It's going to save us money, and I think we're going to have things look better than they look today, and that will free up maintenance staff to take care of things. I hate seeing graffiti at the skate park. It's been there for 7 months. There's holes in the roof. The drinking fountains don't work. There was fecal matter over the restrooms for an entire weekend. It's not acceptable, and it needs to change. Those are my 3 goals.
Thank you. And looking at our clock, we need to start moving along to closing statements. And with that, I know there's a lot of questions here that we didn't get to, so I'd like to remind folks to please stay after, and you can talk to the candidates directly. So to get us started with closing statements, we also did a draw for that, and Sid won that one as well. So Sid is going to start with closing statements. So Sid, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you so much. Well, I didn't include my three goals or wishes, balancing the budget. I was the president last year, and it was brought to my attention we were running $1 million deficit, and it took my breath away. And our previous general manager, to her credit, brought that deficit down to $500,000. It's not good, but it's better than it was. Our current general manager is trying, and I think in many good ways, to reduce our budget this year, and hopefully it'll be under that $500,000. But we know we can't sustain that. So all my 3 goals are predicated on balancing our budget or coming close to balancing our budget. Now, the people don't want to hear it, but that means either we have to cut back services significantly. That might mean closing this building, could be closing the parks, it could be laying off a lot of people, or it could be getting out there and getting some sort of bond or some sort of measure that gives us enhanced revenue. And those are going to be the choices, and I think the courage is going to take us board members to put that out to the public honestly. So those are our challenges. I feel I'm still, one of the reasons for re-election for myself is I do have that history. I do see the big picture, and I do see the future, and I'm willing to have the courage to step forward and make those hard decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Barbara, you're next for closing statements. You have 2 minutes.
Well, as I said before, the main reason I'm here for the 3rd time, by the way, is because of my fire service. I want to be part of this annexation. I'm not saying I want to see us be El Dorado Hills or El Dorado County Fire. What I'm saying is I want to be part of it so I know what's going on. And we can't keep approving deficit spending budgets. It is time that we learn to live within our means. And I don't want to see people lose jobs, and I don't want to see this building get shuttered. But you know, if we keep going in the direction we're going, we're going to be bankrupt. I mean, it is the bottom line. This district has no reserves. And that is just, to me, not the way to run business. So I just would like to make the statement that I want to do what is right for this community. I want to see us be successful. But you know, you guys, maybe not for us that are older, but for the younger people, maybe they're going to have to pay an assessment to make this district work, because we're just not able to keep up. We don't have enough property tax revenues to keep up with the expenses, and things aren't getting any cheaper. So anyway, I would love your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. JR, you're next for your closing statement. You have 2 minutes.
We don't have any money, and we need to figure out ways to get money. This building here was built on a bond that we all took out 25 years, so I don't want to see anybody's property tax go up. But if we can figure out a way to convert that bond into an assessment and have that money go back into the community and reinvest into the things that we used to have and we still have that are just sitting there not doing anything, that's important. There was a man that worked here a long time, Paul Ryan was his name, and he was this community. He did everything for this town. And we built the Summer Spectacular so his widowed wife, his kids, and his grandkids couldn't come. And that's not okay. The parks are embarrassing right now, and they need to get better. We need to be better. we can be better, and I'm going to fight to try to get us there. Thank you.
Thank you. Liz?
Yes, I think it would be considered the best approach that we would look at our bond, which is mature in the year 2030. And no one wants to see their taxes go up, but perhaps that could take some of the sting off if we could have our, like as was just mentioned, a conversion of some sort. It would need to look like something similar. So you wouldn't see an additional tax on your property tax bill. I support a community that has parks open for all. I'm not a fan of the gate. I know that the purpose of it was to try to get people to be inspired to purchase annual passes. The annual passes, I would rather see our community pay something on our property tax, and we could have parks, we can have reliable revenues to maintain and develop and improve them. So I would also like to know that I believe in spending wisely, of course. So I look forward to this election coming to an end, because I think I'm, frankly, the whole process is a little tiresome watching all the other races and such. So I would ask for your vote when you go to decide who you want to represent you in this community. I'm for clean, safe, available to all parks, and responsible, balanced budgets. And I know that we would need to look at increasing what we give on our property taxes, but it could look like something that fills without being an increase. Thank you.
Thank you. Tracy, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for coming tonight. I think that one option that we need to think about is the development. Yeah, we're built out as a community, but we also have Marble Valley, Lime Rock Valley, Town and Country. Those are all pretty much right next to Cameron Park. If you look at the county's planning department's analysis of those projects, we're ignored. So I've already started fighting for us in those rooms and telling the county we need to be considered, and the impact fees, some of them should come to Cameron Park, not just El Dorado Hills. So the developers want that El Dorado Hills address. So that's why the plans only talk about annexing. But I'm fighting for you guys in rooms you're not in already, and I will shake things up, and that's what we need right now. We need integrity, we need transparency, and we need people that are willing to do things differently than what we've been doing. And I am not for new taxes, no new taxes. So I think that we need to think about those ideas, the developmental impact. I also wanted to tell you I'm someone with a heart for service for my community. My mother was a New Orleans public school teacher for 30 years. My grandfather taught the first group of black bus drivers to drive in New Orleans. And those are things that have molded me into the person I am today. And I want to make sure that everyone has access to parks, and that we have clean parks, and that we have public safety. And I actually was sent to Louisiana Senate when I worked there by the first black female president of the Louisiana Senate and Speaker of the House. I think that we can come together as a community, and our focus needs to be on our public safety and building community. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie, you have 2 minutes.
Again, thank you to the League of Women Voters for having us, and for all of you taking your time out tonight to be with us. I believe I speak for all of us, we appreciate you coming out. As we look forward to the future of Cameron Park, I believe there's critical areas we need to focus on. First and foremost, as I've said, is public safety. Keeping those fire stations open, returning the ambulance service, and making sure that all of us are prepared for emergencies. We also need to be a fiscally responsible and transparent board that conducts monthly financial reviews and takes actions when things don't go as planned. I'm a quality assurance manager. That's what I've done for the better part of my career. I am trained in identifying problems and finding solutions, and I will bring that expertise to the board. We also need to address the annexation of new developments like Tracy suggested. They may not have a Cameron Park address, but they're closer here than they are to El Dorado Hills. Moms won't drive their kids 10 miles to the public pool when they can drive 2. So we need to make sure that those developments pay their impact, to pay their fair share for the impact that they will have. And lastly, we need to work to protect our community spaces. We need to enhance security, protect against vandalism, and enforce rules, and work to clean up our parks. I'm running because I care deeply about Cameron Park, and I would be honored for your vote. As President Reagan once said, he would describe a shining city on a hill as a place where everyone shares in the good, and I believe that we can all bring Cameron Park back to a special place to live. So once again, thank you for your questions tonight.
Thank you very much to our candidates. Now you can applaud.